From time to time, you just don't necessarily have all the supplies on hand. Like, we didn't have any dowels. Chickens likes to roost on something that's round, so I went ahead and just found some sticks out of the woods that were, this one's older, but the other one is a pretty fresh piece of wood, so it'll at least get the chickens in here, especially since they're growing so rapidly, and we're ready for the dust to settle in the house from all of their kicking up with the pine shavings and everything else. So we'll get this installed today and hopefully get the roof on as well to continue to make good progress. Well, that was a lot of fun working with natural wood to get the roosting bars, and I think it turned out pretty good. I did brace it a good bit just to make sure that it doesn't wobble. It's nice and sturdy, almost as if it's one with the rest of the frame. So I'll quick show you what I did here. So this here, I think it's a piece of cherry, pretty well have a support on either side like this, and I went across the top here and up over there as well, just so then there's an attachment here. I will be getting some L brackets here, I think. Just, oh, that's not moving, but with having friction down, that'll prevent this from rolling around. And you can see that is nice and strong. And then the one across, I did a similar thing mimicking it there. I did put a middle brace just because of the spread, as that branch was a little bit older, not quite as rigid as this cherry. So looking forward to seeing how the chickens like it as well. Well, we are back at it again today. Hopefully we'll get this thing wrapped up or close to that. I right now have it on its side so that I can start working on its axle. So I'll quick show you what I did over here. I ended up taking two 2x4s and just fastening those together, basically making a 4x4 out of those. That is to drop that axle down a little bit further so that we get a little bit more clearance. Which will give us about 8.5 inches of clearance. It's not much, but hopefully, since we don't have a lot of irregular terrain, that will be enough. I did also go ahead and put corner bracing just to provide extra rigidity, because essentially the axle, all that torque is going to be put on to those 2x4s. So anything and everything that we can do to provide additional support will definitely be in our favor there. I believe I said in an earlier video we already had tires, and that is what some of the changes to this design has been inspired by. So these have bearings already in it, and it happens to fit a 1/2-inch threaded rod. So we're very excited about that, as we were worried if it was 3/8 of an inch, that's not as thick of an axle as what we would like for this setup. So let's see if I can quick show you what we're planning on doing. Since Lowe's is not too convenient to our location, we went ahead and bought the 3/8 just in case it was that. Thankfully, it is the 1/2 inch. So this fits on there. And what I'm excited about is it moves very readily without turning the rod, and that's because of the bearings in there. So you can see that is free spinning. We are going to do two short axles about 2 feet in length on either side and attach those with strapping to the bottom of that 4x4. And on the outside here we will have a washer, lock nut washer, and a nut, and then a washer and a lock nut washer over on this side as well, just to prevent that from rubbing against the frame. So I have the wheels attached up here on the axles. Those I think will work pretty good. Down below I'm starting to get the front braces, which will be for the poles that will go forward for pulling and pushing this. But I also found that we had extra metal brackets. This is just to provide a little bit more structural rigidity. We did not have the bolts that Justin Rhodes' plans calls for, so we just used 3-inch screws to attach the 2x2s, both the 45 and the leg that comes down. So on both the leg and the 45, I'm putting some of these just to provide a little bit more rigidity, as that is where a lot of the torque will be coming from. I believe that is the last thing on the bottom side of this unit, so I'm going to go ahead and flip it up and see how it looks, which will also enable me to test out the wheels, make sure I got them square and ready to go. That is so sweet. It worked. It worked. So the door ended up being a little bit tricky as I had to figure out the hinge placement. I'm glad we got the hinges that we did though, because it has a fairly low profile on the back side. The reason we needed this is this door is only about 3/4 of an inch wide, so that one part of the hinge couldn't be more than 3/4, but I wanted more support on the top side. So this hinge has worked out great. And then I'll have a piece of trim that goes up along here just to seal that up there. I also cut these slits so that there's traction both for the chickens and the geese, and hopefully that will just be enough for them to be able to get up. But it's durable, nice and strong. I cut the slits narrow from the side so that when it goes up here and latches, it actually insets into the wood, just to be a little bit more secure, especially against predators. And one other component that we're trying to manage with this is ventilation in a coop. Especially since here in South Carolina, heat is more of a concern than the cold, as we deal with a lot more heat than winter. So I have this 5-inch vent all the way on one side, opposite side from the coop, because you don't want too much ventilation when they're roosting, especially for the winter. So this will provide updraft from the bottom, and all the heat will be able to evacuate between this. And then I also have a vent area in the middle of the top roof as well, just to let that heat evacuate. Well, yet hopefully this here will, with the siding on top, will reduce the radiant heat from the sun, while also providing some insulated properties during the winter. What we love about this is this was going to go into the dumpster. They were basically the cutoffs from underneath, or the underlayment for the siding. Same thing with the siding that we're going to be using on this. So these were just cutoffs that were not usable by the company. What we like, it's white, so it will not contract too much heat, and it should shed all the moisture away from the chickens. What's amazing is even the decorative corner pieces, which also have the J channel built in for the siding, were also scrapped. So we're able to get this thing completely buttoned up, basically just for the cost of asking them to save it for us. So we're very thrilled about that, and hopefully this will turn out pretty nice and make it more of a pretty shop. Well, things are just flying along here. I have this post just temporarily set on top of the two poles, and once we figure out the right depth, the right pitch, I'll go ahead and set these into the 2x4s here. That way I can put a cleat on top just to prevent it from loosening off, and it would give it a lot more structural rigidity as well. So one of the unexpected challenges that we were running into with the door or the ramp up front, we didn't have to worry about hinge placement and the gap that necessarily brings here. So this particular type of hinge, you need enough room for that, this is AZAC here, to be able to open up, which means we have at least a 5/8 of an inch gap here. So I'll need to put a piece of trim behind there. But I got one side of the door done. Now I'm going to get this other door in here. And this will be for access for our egg laying coop. So that'll be really exciting to get that opened up. To lock the door, we're using a, what are these called? Safety gate hook and eye. So this particular one has a safety clasp that is good for keeping coons out in particular. Once I get this open, there we go. The way that works, this particular clasp has that piece of metal right there with the spring. So you have to pull that in order to open it. And raccoons cannot do that too easily, so that's a good safety feature. All I have to do is get that installed wherever I think it's helpful, and then line it up with this eyelet, and that should enable us to keep this secure from all the critters. Well, that was quite the project. It is so exciting to finally see it completed. I gave it a good wash and you can just see it sparkle. It moves around pretty good. I need some additional washers because after adding the siding, I noticed that the tires were a little bit close to the siding, and that's causing a little bit of friction. So I figure bump that out a little bit more. I will be adding a second washer as well just to help lock it a little bit more as well. But back over here, I'll quick do a tour of what I did. This is an access door where I'm going to have a couple of egg laying crates. That way Rebecca can access the egg boxes there. And then that has the safety clasp right here. Ended up wrapping the whole exterior with siding. One thing I like about the white siding is it reflects a lot of the heat. So hopefully that keeps it much cooler. So then over on one of the sides, opposite from the nesting boxes, I ended up putting this vent all the way across just to help as much ventilation from the bottom, help keep that heat lifting up and out of the coop. That is our primary concern, is heat in summer. So up towards the front, I have the pull bar here. I have it just temporarily tacked at the moment. That way we can adjust where on the post, if we like it up here, or if we want to move it further down. So that'll be something that we continue to work with as well. And then this is going to be the door of which the chicken and gosling go up in and out of the coop with. So I just put little strips of wood there for traction. Rebecca painted it with a particular type of exterior paint that hopefully will help preserve the wood a little bit longer. And all of the wood that is exposed to the elements, well, most of it for that matter, is also burned with Shishugibon. So that was actually one of my favorite components of it. It's really cool just to see how it transforms the wood so quickly. It makes it look older, and as a whole, hopefully will provide more longevity for this chicken coop. Well, thank you for joining me on this project. There are many more projects coming up. We'll be building a grape arbor. I need to finish putting the roof on our woodshed over here. That way it helps keep our firewood a little bit drier. And then, what were some other things? I think it's some garden hoops for trellising pole beans and the sort over in the garden. So, well, we'll look forward to seeing you next time.